Thank you very much. Good to see you today. Why do you think France is getting so involved in Syria? What's Paris seeking to gain by supporting the rebels?
Well, I think France is being a very dishonest peace broker in this whole process, and I think they're acting as the cat's paw, if you will, for the U.S. State Department and Pentagon until after the U.S. elections. Obama doesn't want to get involved in what will be an extremely messy conflict directly in Syria until after the U.S. vote is over. So I think France is playing that hitman role. And the idea of giving heavy artillery to these so-called buffer zones is the most cynical thing imaginable. It's going to create civil war. It's going to create bloodshed, anything but peace, as your commentator pointed out just previous to our discussion here. So this is one of the most dangerous moves of the whole Syrian engagement by NATO in the last 18 months.
But surely by France giving the Syrian rebels heavy artillery and possibly anti-aircraft guns, hopefully, according to them, that will help to sow the seeds of a peaceful democracy.
Well, I think if you look at what the Muslim Brotherhood has been reported doing since they took the presidency in Egypt, you'll see that the Syrian opposition is dominated by the Muslim Brotherhood, the same organization, and their long-term agenda is introducing an al-queda or Taliban-like fanatical Islamic Sharia law into Syria and ending the tolerance of different religions, which has been the trademark of Syrian life for decades under the al-Assad family, but in general. And there are reports from journalists inside Syria over the last months of the so-called opposition. In many cases, they're al-Qaeda or Mujahideen that have been brought in from Saudi Arabia and elsewhere and provided guns and weapons, that they have beheaded civilians and blamed the atrocities on the Assad government. So this is really, I don't know what you could call the equivalent of the Fabius recognition of a government in exile or building a government in exile. Perhaps if the Russian government were to recognize the Ku Klux Klan as a government in exile in America and provided heavy artillery so that they could go against Washington or something like that.
Which would evidently not be taken well at all. But as we're saying here, you were mentioning a moment ago that perhaps France is offering to lead the way with Syria because, as you said, we've got the whole election campaigning going on in the United States. Obama wanted to keep his hands clean. But we saw it was France that heralded and led the campaign into Libya. Now, many are saying that, well, France did that because one of the things that former French President Sarkozy did was to agree to his French oil companies that they would get a massive stake in the oil reserves there. So if they're leading, if they're championing the lead into Syria, what is there to gain?
Well, that's a good question. The French elite, historically, going back to the Napoleonic era, if you want to, have always tended geopolitically to punch above their weight. And I think since Sarkozy and the French military industry backed Sarkozy as the way to get France back in the NATO game as a player, that they've tended every single time on major international decisions to punch above their weight with catastrophic consequences for France. And I think the Syria adventure that the Hollande-Fabius government is engaged in is going to backfire in the face of France and certainly of the world if it comes to World War III by miscalculation. This is the most dangerous thing that I've seen in 37 years of analyzing geopolitical developments.
And it's certainly a conversation that requires more time than we have available for us today. Geopolitical researcher and author F. William Engdahl. Can't thank you enough. Good to see you.